speaker is Mr. Yehuza Ismail. He is a humanitarian. He is an educationist. He is also an SD advocate, and he is also a climate change actor. He has been within the humanitarian space, making a lot of impact, and he is currently working with Center for Advocacy, Transparency, and Accountability Initiative, CAT-I, with over 5 years of work experience in the education sector, education in emergency. He's into Sorry for the break. The network is actually playing with me. All right. Yeah, I was saying something about our keynote speaker. So he has over 5 years work experience in education, in emergency intervention, in advocacy, in peace building, and also in stakeholders engagement and mobilization. He is a social worker who is passionate about promoting social change within the community. He's into community development. He also uses local approaches for community engagement activities. He's also ready today to speak to us. How useful are we in making or creating that change we want within the community? Definitely, you might have seen that within the community, there are ways, there are things that you've been seeing, you've noted within the community that we really need a change and that we really need to have a lasting solution for this. Now, with respect to climate change, if you are in, for those in Borno State, for those in Maiduguri, to be precise, day before yesterday, and today, you can see that there's a change in the weather. You can see that there's a change in the atmosphere. And you might be hearing of, okay, this person is sick, this person have been admitted. It's all due to change of weather. And then locally, I can say it's a change, or with Hausa or in Hausa language, we can say this is Saunim Yene. Right. Now, I'll be happy if, like I said earlier, we have our notepad and our pen to write down what our speaker will say, and also to note down questions. And later on, we will have time for questions and answers. And not only that, we'll also have time for contribution. So I would love us to be ready to contribute in this meaningful conversation as others will join in. So I would love to welcome our keynote speaker to the stage. The stage is yours, sir. You can unmute and take over. Thank you. All right, before our speaker comes up, I think he is having a technical issue also. So I I would love Abubakar to introduce yourself if you can hear me.
Hello.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm
Fine.
fine.
My
Yeah.
name is Abubakar Ali. I'm your fellow advocate. Sorry, I will say change maker, and I'm happy to be here today. Despite that I am late, but I am happy to be here, and I wish we will take up something much more important here in this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. You said something that made me smile. Yeah, I'm also an
Okay,
expectant
hello.
of something tonight. Yeah,
Okay, apologies. I was unable to join, and this person you give me the chance to talk. I'm having a network problem from my end, but I was able to resolve it.
all right, sir. You're welcome on board, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Simon Elijah, for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate that. My name is Yehuza Ismail. As you rightly stated, I work with Center for Advocacy, Transparency and Accountability Initiative. I am also an SDG advocate that I think we are one of the cohort that just finished before this cohort. I am actually a
Wow.
climate activist and also an educationist, as you rightly stated, who we are working towards promoting social change through enhancing service delivery and empowering citizens across the grassroots communities. I'm currently a climate change advocate who was sent by the MSCDC Tanzania on climate justice from the Climate Justice Academy. It's my pleasure to be part of these young, vibrant change makers in seeing what we can do and how we can enhance our capacity and share ideas and knowledge in promoting and addressing climate-related issues across our communities. I would like to stop here so that you can give me another opportunity to talk. Thank you, and over.
All right, sir. There's no there's no new person. Okay. All right. There's someone that joined in. That's Halima Yusuf. Can you unmute and introduce yourself? Yeah, Halima, if you're there, you can unmute and speak. All right. I think Halima might be facing a technical issue. So
Hello, everyone.
hello, good evening. Yeah, Hamidu, you can
Yes, sir.
speak. Introduce yourself. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was coming late, sir.
No problem.
Good evening to you all. My
Good
name
evening,
is
sir.
Hamidu Haruna, fellow advocate, Borno State. So, question: is there any items or textbook that you will expect to study at school?
All right. I'm going to answer that.
Okay. I hope you understand, sir.
We are going to talk in English.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. I think Halima Bawa is having a technical issue. All right. The floor is yours now. Mr. Yehuza Samaila, you can take over. Yes, sir. You're welcome on board.
Okay, well, thank you, Simon, as I rightly stated, for the opportunity. I think I really appreciate you guys seeing you coming up with amazing topic to discuss more around climate change. Before we go further, I have some expectations that I think and I believe it and every person here will understand some major inputs. Here are some of my expectations. At the end of our discussion, I'm expecting that each and every person will understand more around climate change, will understand around strategies, methodologies, and method of youth engagement in addressing climate change. And I also believe and wanting to see how we can understand how can we engage our state government and how can we engage our stakeholders in addressing climate change? And also, we are going to discuss a little bit on inequalities that exist between climate change. So, for me to go further, if I may ask, I like to make it to be a session whereby it's more participatory by each and every person contributing. I would like to start by asking if we talk around climate change, what comes to our mind when we discuss around climate change?
Thank you.
Okay, I think we should make it in such a way that any person that wanted to respond to the question should raise his hand up. Then maybe that Simon Elijah will give him the opportunity for him to unmute himself and speak. So let's make it in this form. When we speak around climate change, can you please someone help us and tell us what comes to his mind whenever he has the word climate change?
Please, you can unmute and speak if you want to.
Manasa, please go ahead. Go ahead and unmute yourself and speak. The floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
Very well. Okay. Okay, when we talk about climate change, what will come to our mind is that the changes in the temperature, and this can be due to the natural occurrence, either by sun or it can be by human activities, as we know that as we are using our cars, we are burning fossil fuel, which will contribute to the global warming. It will make the temperature to rise high, which will contribute to the climate change. So this is what I can talk about for now. If my fellows can contribute and add something on it, I think it will be better.
Okay, thank you so much, Manasa. Do anybody have a different view on climate change? Hello, did anyone have a different view in climate change?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please go ahead and say it.
Climate change refers to change over the average weather and weather variability of a region or the planet over time. Climate change is talking about weather, temperature, winter, etc., etc., etc.
Thank you so much, Hamidu, for the wonderful insight. Thank you.
Okay,
well,
Khalida dropped
rightly,
something on the chat box.
okay, let's see. Can you read it out for us so that we can hear from you?
Okay, from Khalida, climate change. Okay, climate change is all about change in weather pattern over a long period of time.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. I think from now I can continue. Okay, all the answers are actually right and are actually right because we are always advocating for youth participation in the sense that we usually say no answer is wrong and no answer is right. So when we speak about climate change, is the change in normal atmospheric conditions. When you speak around things around climate change, we have the weather, we have the precipitations, any changes within the period of 35 years. That is climate change. The person who
Yes,
is
sir.
born in Borno, Borno said, I am very sure he can testify and tell us more around that. Before we used to experience our rainy season, I think from the month of May, June, July, I think highest by August, September, that is over. The rainy season will be over. But currently now we are even experiencing more of the rainfall currently in October and in September. So that means something has happened to the entire system, which is as a result of what climate change. And whenever we are discussing about climate change, there are two things we need to consider. One is how does the climate change occur? Who are the major contributors of the climate change? How can climate change affect all what is happening within our community and society? So I can say that in issues affecting climate change, we need to consider two things. One is anthropogenic, and the second one is non-anthropogenic. The anthropogenic causes of climate change is what happens naturally, while the non-anthropogenic is what happens as a result of what man and human cause. Most especially when we look at the nature of activities we are doing, is actually not friendly to the environment and society. And what we fail to do today, right, is going to affect the future generation. What we are what we are suffering and enjoying right now in our environment is what some of our forefathers did in the past years, in 100 years before we are even born. That is what we are actually enjoying currently. When we look at the trees around us, when we look at different features around us, all these things are very important to our life and to our survival. That is the reason why they are in existence. So when we discuss in a bigger scope, when we look at the issue of climate change is a very broader issue. Climate change is related to actually most importantly to a lot of aspects of our life. It can lead to poverty, it can lead to people losing access to education, it can lead to famine, it can lead to people losing their jobs, it can lead to death, it can lead to a lot of issues. So for us to address this, young people play a vital role in addressing climate change. And most importantly, young people are also the victim of climate change. And we are also a major contributor of climate change. Young people are also an agent of action and agent of change in addressing climate change. So there are certain terminologies of what we are doing uh, in terms of harmful practice of our environment, in terms of climate change that we need to consider. So there are a lot of aspects of climate change. We need to talk around climate mitigation. We have climate building, climate resilience. Like there are a lot of ways. We need to even look at some of the cultural ways of addressing climate change. We need to look at justice. There are many aspects of climate change, as I earlier stated. So for us to achieve this, I think young people have a vital role to play in addressing climate change. Likewise, the government has a vital role in addressing climate change. When we look at the word building resilience, the resilience is how do we respond? The climate change has already occurred, it's already happening in our communities and societies. And in one way or the other, I can say each and every person has understand or maybe had or learned the impact of climate change. So it will be very much more appreciated when young people are engaged appropriately in a way that they will address the issues around climate change. For us to achieve this, I think it has to do with what we call moral extensionism. We need to start looking at climate change not only as something that is happening, I don't see attitude and whatsoever. We need to have it as what? As part of our morals. It's part of our morals to be protecting our environment. It's part of our morals. Before in the olden days, you can get to realize that in a community, there are certain animals that are untouchable, which is promoting conservation of wildlife and conservation of animals, most especially in some southern part of Borno and and some part of some part of Yobe, to be precise. There are certain locations that they don't allow. It's impermissible to anyone to maybe kill a snake because of their cultural extensionism and moral extensionism of that particular community. Before, based on other tribe and other languages, even a harmful practice for each and every person to maybe either kill an animal, a wild animal, or anything. But as a result of how we are now, as a result of the rise, increase in population, urbanizations, and many more, these are some of the major impacts of the climate change. I'm sorry, I can see you are asking me to share my screen. I don't have any slide that I'm presenting with. I'm actually making the presentation of it, but maybe at the end of the day, I will have something to share with you guys probably, but I did not make promise. If my work permit me, if I don't have a lot of work on my desk, I think I will see how I can come up with something to share with you. Thank you, and over to you. Can I continue now? Hello, Simon, can I continue?
Yes, sir. You can go ahead. Continue, sir.
So I don't have any slide with me actually. So I'm sorry for that. I wanted to come up with the slide, but due to the nature of work and content of my work, I was unable to do that. Please
All
accept
right,
my
sir. It's
apology for
perfect.
the inconvenience. So
Yes,
when
sir.
we are talking around climate change, we need to consider two things. We need to consider social justice, fair treatment, and equitable status of all individual and social group within a state or society. We need to consider the aspect of climate justice, people-centered approach in addressing climate change, and a fair and equitable way. Marginalized are not hit the most. The reason why I'm saying such is that whenever we are discussing around climate change, there are certain number or particular group of people that are mostly affected, which are what the marginalized group. They are normally affected, people who are in the grassroots communities, people in the village. These are the people that are actually most affected when we are discussing around climate change, which is actually as a result of our harmful practices to the environment, most especially when we look at our industrializations, the rate and amount of gases we are emitting almost every day is actually causing a very greater harm in terms of health, in terms of socio-economic activities and other adverse effects, which is actually causing a lot of harm. When we look at the system of inequality, we need to look at gender, we need to look at our race, ethnicity, our class, disability, wealth, ageism, and other aspects, education, and a lot of a lot of other societal vices. All these things are induced as a result of what climate change, which I think in all the aspects of what I am discussing, we need to look at how can we engage the government, how can we engage the global south, how can we engage the global leaders, how can we engage some of the policy makers and decision makers across our community for them to come up with sustainable solutions and eco-friendly solutions, and at some point to see how we can reduce the amount of carbon emission, how we can reduce the issue of carbon footprint to make it more eco-friendly societies by every. So when we look at climate change as a social justice, we need to look at our source of emission. What are our major source of emission? What are we even using as our major source of cooking? Like a lot of things, actually, it has a one way or other way attributed to climate change. We need to look at climate change in a form of poverty. Climate change has induced a number of poverty in a lot of locations, a lot of communities, a lot of countries, which has affected the state and communities in the aspect that even make other people to migrate to leave their locations. If I can give example with the Lake Chad basins, I think before Lake Chad basins has been an area, an arena for over 2 million, 3 million people that are surviving there, which they are actually using that particular river as their major source of income and their major source of food. So for us to advocate for climate change, I think there are a lot of methodologies and a lot of ways we can engage the government and other stakeholders in addressing the climate change. We have some major aspects of climate change. We have some major aspects of climate change and dimension of climate change. So in terms of distributional justice, we need to look at climate change in the aspect of fair distribution of resources, societal responses, vulnerability of climate change, and a lot of things, all to ensure we have achieved the level of climate justice across our various communities and across our country. So I think these are some of the major things we need to consider. Not only addressing the climate change to some extent, most especially our people usually look at tree plantation as one of the major practice or best way of addressing climate change. While there are a lot of other ways of addressing climate change, how can we inform people that have limited access to information? How can we engage the underserved community, the vulnerable group, with important social services and important information? How can we include vulnerability groups, the women, people with disability, underprivileged people within the community, underrepresented in decision-making processes, and how can we create a more sustainable and equitable solution for everybody? So I think all these things are very important in addressing climate change and also advocating for climate change. So I think we need to also look at our global issues, intergenerational differences, social injustice, and other gender issues. There are a lot of linkage and interlinkage in addressing climate change. Climate change can lead to crisis. Climate change is a sociological, political, and economical crisis that a lot of countries are actually battling with issue of climate change. those who are affected the most contribute the least. So when we look at when we are looking at the aspect of justice, people that are actually contributing or creating the less of the climate issues or climate changes, they are the people that are affected the most especially developing countries. I'm not only looking at the climate aspect and climate justice in the aspect of Borno State alone, but I'm looking at it in the aspect of maybe regional or country and maybe the global, maybe the world entire. So I think these are major things that we need to consider in addressing climate change, and each and every person needs to participate in coming up with a suitable way of addressing climate change. So I think I would like to stop here. If there are any person that has a question, if you kindly indicate or ask me the question for me to respond before I continue. If I'm a little bit fast, please call my attention so that I will talk slowly.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you for the break. Yeah, it's actually going on fine. So it's a privilege. If there's anyone that would love to ask any question before our presenter continues, you can quickly drop or unmute and speak. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I think there
If
are
there's
any
none, there's no hands up, so I
okay,
can
so I think I
continue.
will
They're
continue.
actually
Question at that point,
going on spot.
please feel free to stop me and ask me the question. I will respond before we continue. So I also discussed to you that we are going to have a brief highlight and understand the major inequalities that exist between the North and South. So initially, when we speak about the global North and global South, and even in some of the contexts when we talk about the North and South, actually we consider the North as the rich while the South are the poor. So there are a lot of things that exist between the poor and the rich. So sometimes the rich are the major contributor while the poor are the less contributor. But at the end of the day, the poor are harmed less than the rich. For example, most especially the rich people are the people that are major contributing to the climate change, most especially in the aspect of carbon dioxide. Maybe they have a generator that they operate 247 within their community. This generator is emitting heat, it's emitting hydrofluorocarbon and many more. Maybe they have a lot of air conditions in their homes. This air conditions is giving them cool. At the end of the day, is increasing the rate of maybe temperatures within our environment. So sometimes when you are maybe living outside or under the tree, somebody can easily come and pass his car because he has like the level of the car is emitting. I don't think we can easily resist when we are living outside. We even have to stand up and maybe change our locations and many more. So these are the kind of inequalities that actually happens between the rich and the poor. Sometimes inequalities happen between the social groups in the aspect of maybe based on maybe the way and source of livelihood, maybe a farmer, a person who rear animals, and a person who farm for him to survive or have something to eat and feed his family. And we have other social inequalities that exist in our society, such as gender inequality, decisions making that favor men over women. Sometimes when we are making a decision in terms of climate change, we usually engage men, we are not engaging maybe women, we are thinking that they are the minority and they are the less privileged within our community. So we just make decisions on our own, we the men. And sometimes the women can be the people that are majorly affected within the community. We have political inequalities, laws that favor some group over other groups. Most especially, there are other companies and other maybe fuel companies that are actually contributing a major quite a number of maybe carbon dioxide to the atmosphere that is affecting our environment. So when we are coming up with policies, how can you ensure that the life of the people and the citizens are not affected within the community? Sometimes when people have an industry within your community, it's affecting the number of people in the community in terms of maybe economic inequality of opportunity and access to healthcare centers and even education. That happens maybe as a result of flooding, as a result of maybe lot of things. Climate change can even lead to contamination of a lot of diseases and can lead to death and many more within our community. So for us to address the issue of climate change, we need to look at the root causes of the climate change in our society and in our various communities. We need to leverage and look at some of the major things to consider in addressing the climate change. First of all, we have pillars of addressing climate change in the sense that we need to consider social, racial, and environmental justice. Like, what are you trying to bring? Is what you are bringing going to affect the community, or is not going to affect the community? Is what you are bringing going to impact the number of people in the community, or is going to affect the number of people in the community? So we need to consider this. Assuming we are planting trees, you cannot just go to a community to start planting tree. Maybe you need to have to plant the tree in some other locations that is going to affect the number of people in the community. For them, it's injustice. While for you, you are thinking that you are trying to address the climate change. We need to look at other indigenous and native climate actions. How can we address the climate change within our localized way, in a way that is going to be cost effective and that every person can be able to address the climate change and act accordingly. We need to also look at community resilience and adaptation. How can our community build their resilience? How can the community adapt some of the major climate change? And we need to also consider the nature-based climate solutions. So whenever we are having any activity, like, we need to consider what is the level of activity we are having. Who are we engaging with? Where is the location? Do I have the needed resources? Do I have the required resources? Who are they going to be the stakeholders that I need to go and visit? What am I going to tell them? What are some of my agendas? How can I include the most affected people in the community for me to hear their own needs and understand what they want? We need to also look at climate change education and engagement. All these are youth roles in terms of addressing the climate change. So I wanted to just have an overview for us to discuss actually on some of the major things regarding climate change. By then, I will start taking of the roles that young people can play in addressing most of the climate-related issues across our various communities. I think I will stop now. I will be going on role of young people in addressing climate change. As I rightly highlighted in the inception and the beginning of our discussion, I discussed that young people play a vital role, very important and vital role in addressing climate change. There are a lot of ways that young people can use to come up with a better way of addressing climate change. We have a communication skill. Sometimes we need to use our communication skills to advocate and address for climate change. How do we communicate? How do we pass information? How do you pass ideas? How do you call the attention of the leaders? How do we engage the stakeholders? How do we map our stakeholders? Who are our stakeholders? What are the resources we are needing? All these things we need to consider in addressing climate change or climate justice. First, importantly, you need to consider your knowledge. When you are talking about climate change as a young person, you need to understand, do I have the knowledge? Do I have the creativity? Do I have the moment? Do I have the right to be heard? We need to consider all these things before we can start addressing climate change. So I think the number one thing for each and every young person to understand and know here is that as a young person, you can address climate change in a form of advocacy. You can start taking advocacy to some of the stakeholders and community leaders for them to understand the impact and issues behind climate change across your communities, your locality or society for them to understand. So the number one thing I think we need to do in conducting advocacy is we need to conduct our research. We need to start by conducting research. What am I going to discuss? Or I'm going to talk about climate change. Okay, how has the climate change is affecting the community? Is there any existing plan? Is there any existing policy? Is there any existing structures within the community towards mitigating or building the resilience of people in addressing climate change? If no, what can I do to address the climate change? So we need to consider this. We can advocate for climate change in the way of storytelling, advocacy, this is a minimum. We can even go as far as how can we engage with stakeholders and coming up with policies that is going to favor each and every person in terms of climate change. So when we prepare and make our research, we can communicate climate change in a way of storytelling, whereby each and every person will understand that, yeah, this is making impact. Sometimes for you to come up with an idea of addressing climate change, you need to consider the people. Who are the people that are part of the issue? When the people that are part of the issues are willing and ready to support you and give you their own ideas, this is why you can be able to understand and know the root cause of the issue. You cannot kill a snake and just leave the snake with the snake. It can maybe easily bite you in the process of killing the snake. You can maybe easily be a victim again. So we need to consider this. Maybe we can engage in advocacy using our social media handles to advocate and inform people, policy and decision makers on how climate change is affecting people. Assuming you can create a story of how climate change is affecting young people to have access to quality education, how climate change is affecting the people to have access to healthcare facilities and healthcare centers within our community and within our locality. We can engage in a lot of activities such as tree planting campaigns. I believe young people are innovative and creative. Through our innovation and creativity, we can be able to come up with some solutions, some sustainable solutions on addressing climate change, such as maybe inventing solar cars, as one of the person in Maiduguri was able to come up with a solar vehicle. I think you are all aware of that. He was able to invent something around solar car that is eco-friendly to the community. People are now at the verge of making charcoal briquette more sustainable way of addressing issues. In addressing climate change, we need to consider this. I talk about our attitude and our moral extensionism, whereby we need to know it and understand that climate change is right, and we need to maybe change our morals, we need to change our behavior and our character towards reducing the impact of climate change. There are what we call RRR in climate change: reduce, reuse, and recycle. So the RRR is speaking around how can we reduce maybe littering our community anyhow? How can we reduce maybe the kind of carbon monoxide we are contributing to our society? How can we contribute in maybe reducing some of the carbon, hydrochlorocarbons, and many more to our community that is very harmful to us. Maybe in aspect of waste management, in aspect of urbanization, how can we build our houses in the sense that will not be emitting most of the heat, in aspect of radiation that is going to be causing harm to our communities and many more. So in the aspect of reduce, we can reduce maybe the use of polyethylene as young people and food. We can decide to maybe carry uh, our reusable bags maybe while going to the market for us to go and buy something. As young people, you can also recycle. Sometimes people are making a lot of money out of some of the waste. There are the concept we call waste to wealth. From waste, people are now generating wealth. And we look at maybe all these babambola, people that are maybe looking for rubber on the street, like a lot of places. People are now going into waste management. People are now going into ecological agriculture, whereby people are now making use of the local manure, maybe local organic manure to produce fertilizer, which is going to elevate the suffering and cost of fertilizer. And when we look at climate change, I talk about man-made aspect as some of the major way of contributing to climate change. When we look at our industrial farming, from the planting, from the hoeing, planting and harvesting, everything is making use of machines. And all these machines are actually contributing in emitting carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, which is actually causing a lot of impact to our community. When we look at the aspect of poverty, a lot of people are now engaging in cutting down of trees as some of their major way of maybe source of cooking, maybe source of light. Some are even using it as a major source of business and source of livelihood. So when we are able to come up with more sustainable and innovative and creative using our science and technology ideas, we can be able to address and reduce and make the community and societies and the environment more sustainable and eco-friendly for everybody. Now people are already at the verge of engaging in a lot of activities, a lot of projects that are maybe in the aspect of maybe waste management. People are making money out of waste management. How can they use some of the waste to make wealth? People are now looking at businesses that are more green businesses that will reduce environmental impact and support economic restoration with the purpose of attaining cleaner and more climate resilient and efficient economy that preserve environmental sustainability and provide decent work conditions. People are now looking at green economy, a blue economy. People are now looking at the idea of greenwashing. How can you start engaging with some of your community? How can you engage your community stakeholders and some of the political leaders in coming up with more sustainable solutions in addressing this? So we can also go ahead in aspect of community mobilization, awareness creation, using media, using social media, and a lot of more for other people to understand and know how this climate change is making greater impact to our community. We have our carbon taxing, we have carbon sinks, we have lots of things that is attributed to climate change. Nowadays, people are even going extra mile in harvesting water. People are now harvesting water to use for their irrigation farming with the use of technology and innovation. So I think here young people have a very vital role to play in addressing climate change in the aspect of advocacy, empowerment, community awareness, sensitization, awareness creation, climate education, whereby you can go to school and engage with stakeholders for them to understand and realize how they can address the issue of climate change. I think one of the days that young people should start thinking ahead of people, as we are actually at the era of AI, we are in the 21st century. People are actually thinking, according to a research, by 2030 to 2050, a lot of young people are at the verge of losing their job. As we all know, currently, some of the developed countries are now coming up with some of the AI, maybe in terms of drivers, in terms of many more and many activities. So as they are creating most of these things, people are now losing their jobs and the environment is becoming more harmful to each and every person. So I think this is the right time for each and every person to start thinking ahead of time. How can I come up with a sustainable solution? How can I come up with a better way of addressing climate change? As I am maybe earning something, I should not end up creating more problem and more issues to my society or environment. The aspect of climate change can lead to disease separate, it can lead to malaria outbreak, it can lead to lot of things, a lot of issues actually in our community. So these are some of the major things that I think young people, when we put our hands on deck, or we go back to the drawing board, we can be able to address a lot of things regarding climate change. We can be able to engage our fellow colleagues in sharing ideas and discussing with them for them to understand and know, yeah, climate change is actually an issue. So we need to look at some of the nature-based and existing indigenous solutions and way of addressing the climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello, I hope I'm not taking for myself alone.
Yes, sir, we are hearing.
Okay. So do you have any question or shall I continue?
Continue, sir.
Actually, sir, I've dropped my question in the chat box. I don't know whether you have seen it.
Okay, I see it. How can we relate climate change to crisis? So I think climate change is actually a crisis on its own. And I also talked to you around the interlinkage between climate change and a lot of aspects. Climate change can cause crisis in the sense of when we look at farmers traders conflict, most of the time farmers and traders are having conflict as a result of the climate change. The impact of climate change is what is bringing all this conflict. I speak to you around urbanization. You know, before the Fulani herdsmen have their own normal route whereby they used to connect to all the state and other countries within the world. So as a result of urbanization, the population tends to grow. People started building houses, which makes them unable to access some of their roots for their cattle and some of their animals, which make them start grazing in some of the farmers' land that contributed to a lot of crisis, and normally when we look around climate, there are things around improper distributions of resources and wealth, where I talk around issue of where I discuss around issue of climate justice. We need to be fair and equal and justice to each and every person. So this is a location that you used to go and farm. Tomorrow you just come and see the leaders of the government, assuming you trying to address climate change. Maybe you are part in your family, your father is elect, he leaves a very big land for you to use as for residents or maybe for any other business. So for me to address climate change, I come up with the idea of planting 10,000 trees in that particular land. Will you be happy with my idea or with my suggestion? What I am doing is good, but I'm not doing justice to you because my idea is unfit. I'm affecting you either directly or indirectly, which can actually lead crisis, and normally frustration can lead to aggregation. So climate change can actually cause crisis. And crisis can also contribute in addressing climate change. The number of trees that have cut down in by the military while making surveillance and maybe while trying to see how they can address the issue of insecurity in the country, I think is actually unimaginable. Quite a number of trees was burnt down, some were cut down for them to have a maybe clear vision of some of the locations to address the issue of insecurity, which has actually contributed to lots of climate change and the increase in temperature we are currently facing in Borno State. Thank you. I hope I have answered your question. If you need any clarification, you can go ahead and ask. If you have any question, please feel free to raise up your hand or give me the chance to ask your question. If you have any addition or any suggestion or contribution, please feel free to also raise your hand as well to enable you to contribute and say some of that input. Thank you and over.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for the wonderful and explicit conversation and knowledge that you impacted in us. We are so much excited and delighted to have this session with you and to have you on board. Actually, this has gone a long way and it will create a ripple effect within the community to also tell others to also share with young people and young-minded individuals with this mindset of bringing this change and bringing a positive narrative within the community to bring about an positive action towards how we can build a resilient community with the aim of tackling climate change in Borno State. Thank you so much, sir. And if you have any question to ask, please, our keynote speaker is well ready to do justice to that. Do we have any question with regards to what have been talked about climate change?
Okay, I think it's like they are enjoying the session, so I should just continue or I should stop with the conversation. Because this is a clear indication that if nobody will ask questions, that means all my conversations I'm doing it alone for myself. Hello.
Exactly.
Hello. Okay, can we continue?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
All right, you can drop on the chat box, you can unmute and speak.
If you have any question, please drop on the chat box. I will respond to your question. If you have any addition, kindly indicate so that we can give you an opportunity for you to make your own input or to comments or any addition. Please feel free to do so. I would love to learn actually from you. Is there anything you did not understand? Am I bit fast to call my attention so that I will not slowly for you to be able to learn at the end of it? So in the absence of no question, I have a question for you. So what role can young people play in addressing climate change?
We don't get you. Please review yourself.
Okay, what role can young people play in addressing climate change in Borno State based on our conversation?
I grab contribute by creating.
So, Abubakar, we can't hear you. Can you be audible, please?
I not hear him.
Yes, we can't hear you. Come again.
No, I would. Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Hey, if I digest the conversation well, but those to understand that climate eradicate minded person can also to advocate like sensitization, awareness, and so on. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Please be audible. I can you come again, or can you please drop your point on the chat box? I'll go through it. Okay, so as I said earlier, I said young people have a vital role to play in addressing climate change using the technology, science, and innovation. Actually, young people have a lot of young entrepreneurs who are youth. So, in coming up with some of the solutions, I would like to speak a little bit around entrepreneurship. An entrepreneur is a person who is always seeking and working to address a particular issue in the community. Through your innovation idea and entrepreneurial, you can be able to come up with a sustainable way of addressing climate change, and in the real run, you are making, you end up making a profit while trying to address some of the climate issues. So we need to start considering on some of the immediate things. Let's be able to forecast and look at the future in whatever we are doing. So I discussed a little bit on the aspect of wealth to wealth. I also speak around green space. I also speak around AI, digital space, carbon, carbon footprint, like carbon market, carbon taxing. I mean, so all these things are some of the major things. Advocacy, like engaging the government, stakeholder mapping, using the media to create awareness and advocate for social change, using the story method, using some of the online platforms to discuss around climate change, using cartoons and many more. So all these are ways by which young people can engage in advocating and addressing the impact of climate change. While we talk about coming up with some of the initiatives such as climate education, we can decide to come up with programs for primary school children, a program in the way of catching them young, how they can be able to understand and know more around climate change for them to understand. So you cannot just directly talk to people and maybe decided that people are not addressing climate change because they are illiterate or don't know what they are. Some are doing in the way they are doing because they are actually ignorant and they are not aware, they are lacking the information. So we can decide to empower the people in our community for them to know the impact through awareness creation. We can also engage in waste management, community sanitations, and many more. All these things are a way of coming up with effective and sustainable way and building the resilience of people towards climate change and towards addressing the impact of climate change.
Wow. Thank you, sir. This is just too much. This is just so wonderful. Thank you for the much and detailed explanation. This is so elaborate. Now, you talked about um, what we need to do as young people, what we need to do as young individuals passionate about making and creating a change in our community. One thing you made mention of was changing our mindsets to utilize the 3R, which is reducing, reusing, and recycling. So I might try to drop this question: for what effort, for what things can youth put in place to take it forward to the stakeholders or those people, those persons involved that can actually hear our voices? Because talking about reducing those things that can lead to climate change, or reusing those things that can reduce reduce climate change and recycling those things or approaches that can reduce climate change. What approach? Where can we?
Okay, well, if I can get you asking me around how can young people make their voice heard and how can young people come up with some of the innovative solutions, where can they go to talk and what mechanisms can they use to amplify their voices for them to be heard? Am I right, please? Hello, Simon.
Hello. Sorry, my network has been very bad. All right, sir, are you there? Hello. Sorry, the network has actually been messing up things with me here. Okay, sorry, can you hear me? Am I audible? Hello, is there anyone there?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right. All right. So I was actually trying to throw the question that our keynote speaker spoke about as youth, as young people, we actually need to change our mindset with regards to climate change. And as young people, we need to take advantage of AI, the artificial technology, and artificial intelligence going on. And then we also need to take this advantage ahead of time to have a better and sustainable solution towards climate change. Now, he talked about using the three R's. That's the first R, reduce, the second R, reuse, the third R is to recycle. Now, my question is, how can youth utilize or take this um, advantage of the three R in Borno State? And then how can youth also table their petition or a request to the state government to be able to bring up a lasting solution to climate changes within our community in Borno State?
Okay, thank you so much. If I can hear you, you are asking around what strategies and what way can young people engage the government stakeholders in addressing the climate change and climate-related issues in Borno State, and how can young people leverage on the 3R to solve the climate-related issues. So thank you so much, Simon. As I earlier stated while I was having the conversation, I talked around ethical extensionism, where I discuss around our moral ethics, our moral values, and our own understanding. So climate change, we need to consider climate change as a right, and we need to consider climate change as something that is moral. So whenever we discuss around climate change or we discuss around changes within Nigeria and within our context, we need to look at our orientation. Sometimes I think our country will only be good and we will only promote change within our community or within our society or country when we can do something right, even if no one is seeing us and even if no one is there to guide us, to tell us this is what we should do and this is what we should not do. So using the 3R, the first R stands for reduce, the second R stands for reuse, while the last R stands for recycle. So when we discuss around the issue of reduce, reuse, and recycle, so the first reduce is talking around how can we reduce the level of carbon footprint, how can we conserve our water, how can we conserve the environment, how can we reduce the issue of carbon footprint, how can we look at issue of sustainable agriculture, sustainable issues, how can we look at issue of maybe loss and damage, how can we sustainability, we are looking at building resilience, we are looking at adaptation, like mitigation and many more. So all these things are part of the reduce. How can we mitigate? How can we adopt? How can we reduce a lot of things that we are using that is actually harmful to our environment? While the issue of reuse, how can we make use of some of the items we use for another different issue? These are the aspect of what we use. When we look at how people are now using, maybe like I can give example with maybe second-hand clothes. People are like in Kano, I think when your clothes is old, when you are about to dump your clothes, there are a particular number of people that they will go and take your clothes. They will go and wash it, they will go and keep it. Some will come and buy it from them to be using it as a rack for them to clean their cars, for them to mop their houses. And some of the industries and companies are even using some of the rack as some of the rack for them to use within their companies and within the environment and many more. So this is the aspect of what recycle. People are now at the verge of recycling. People are now using bottles to create an amazing things. People are now using the pure water leader that is littering our environment, which will take nothing as little as 100 years for it to decay in the soil, which is affecting our soil quality in the aspect of percolations and many more. People are now using agroecology, whereby they are using normal manure, organic manure, for them to use as their source of fertilizer. When we look at all these NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and organic fertilizers are actually harmful to our environment, it's harmful to the soil, and even harmful to our health at some point. So, and this recycling can help in reducing the amount of money people are now using in buying the foreign fertilizers for them for their agriculture. And this, in one way or the other, is going to affect each and every person in coming up with some of the a cheaper agriculture. And now people are now at the verge of agriculture is now a modality and a way that people are not looking for a very large farmland for them to farm. Someone can decide to use a very small portion of land and for him to yield a better produce and many more. So we need to start looking at agroecology in the aspect of recycle, in the aspect of reuse. I talk around how we can use our water bottle. When you are going to the market for a shopping, you can decide to carry your bag at home for you to go to the market and buy all you wanted to buy and put it inside your bag and come home with your bag. You will be using the bag. I think you can go to market to make your own purchase and a lot of things more than 20 or 30 times. When you calculate the number of times you are going to market to go and buy items, and when you are going to market for them to use the polyethylene to put some of the materials, they will use leather to put all the items and the materials inside for you to come back with it. How many leathers will you collect the 20 times? So you are littering the environment, you are causing other issues to the environment. So I think this is the reason why I'm coming up with these things. And the aspect of recycling, people are now using some of the ways such as paper and creating briquette, charcoal briquette. We have carbonized and non-carbonized briquette, which can even in turn to be a business opportunity for a lot of people in the community. So while engaging with the government and stakeholders, I think through advocacy, we can be able to engage our stakeholders through advocacy, whereby we can invite them to programs, we can maybe through online engagement, sharing stories, showing and telling the community and people how the climate change is impacting their life. We can decide to come up with a communique whereby most of the stakeholders will be engaged, they will be held accountable. Sometimes we need to be very vigilant and know how we can inform the decision and policy makers in terms of mapping their interests for us to know who are they going to be part of our advocacy strategy, who are they going to be part of our campaign. We need to make a research for us to know if there are any existing documents in the state that maybe we need to talk around. How can we implement? How can we update some of the policies? Like when we look at some of the policies, I think they are very old. And when we are trying to implement some of the policies, there is a little bit of injustice within the policy and the people. So that is the reason why I talk around climate justice. I talk about fairness and many more. So I think this is going to be very important for us to look at how we can engage with them in the terms of advocacy, developing, coming up with communique. How can we be part of some of their conferences for us to be able to make our input, share our input with them through online advocacy, through online engagements, radio campaigns, media campaign, and many more. We can be able to come up with this. As young people, we can be able to create and have a network of climate change. Maybe Borno said network of climate change. By having such platform, we can be able to promote and see how we can easily engage with the government in promoting the sustainable way of agriculture, sustainable, environmental friendly and climate businesses and climate solutions. I think the last time we had an engagement, we talked around how can the government and stakeholders start including some of the green skills and green initiative as part of the youth empowerment program that are usually having in Borno State. How can the government start coming up with some of the maybe factories, agricultural factories, eco-friendly factories, and many more? How can they be supporting young people and many more? So by actually engaging the government in through the evidence-based advocacy, I think the government will be able to respond and we can be able to promote a change and we are going to have a better outcome. Thank you. Thank you, and over to you, Simon.
Thank you so much, sir. This is just wow. This is so elaborate and concise. Thank you so much for your time to really do justice to the question. And I hope the participants have learned a lot. So do we have anyone with questions?
Okay, I wanted to make clarification. Someone make his own comment. I think I need to hear it, so read it so that everybody can hear. He says young people can contribute to addressing climate not only by tree planting. This is exactly what I said, but also by impacting knowledge to community on how to manage climate change. Young people first look for necessary skill sets and knowledge on how to leverage a sustainable way to bring solutions to the problem of climate change. You know, we have soft skill and hard skills. So for you to start engaging with some of the stakeholders, sometimes we need to look at some of the political political way of doing things. By adopting our lobby skills, how can you lobby some of the politicians? How can we lobby some of the stakeholders? How can we lobby the right beneficiaries? And how can we have the evidence? That is the major reason why I started by discussing around research. We need to conduct our research. We need to have our research for us to know, is there any existing plan? Is there any commitment or anything that someone has ever done in addressing the climate change? If there is, let's map our beneficiaries and look at how we can be able to address the issues. You need to have skills such as communication skills, leadership skills. How can you be able to manage your team? How can you be able to communicate effectively? Social media skills, computer skills, and many more. All these things are some of the major skills that you can be able to use and leverage on it in promoting social change. Even the advocacy is a skill. You need to learn the advocacy skills. How can you engage the government in advocacies? How can you do this and that? How can you draft a letter? A lot of things for you to engage the government in advocacy processes and for you to be able to promote a positive change. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I've learned most of the things you said about how, and I hope we are going to put that into practice. So without waste of time, just a quick one, but in a very light mood. So I don't know what you can add to this, but then the network has actually been poor and just made one or two persons not to be able to join the meeting completely. So the question is this bad network or poor network, bad signal we've been experiencing, is it also part of climate change?
No, the bad signal you are experiencing is not part of climate change. Actually, you wanted to take me back to GIS, Geographical Informational System, I think. So when we look at our geographical informational systems, I talk about urbanizations, I talk about the growth. So most especially at this particular time that we are having the meeting, this is the busiest period of a lot of people. Some are having phone call with their girlfriends, some are on the internet doing their assignments, some are a lot of major things. So I think there is a little bit traffic, a little bit congestion. So at the moment, the number of people are using same thing in addressing a particular issue, we normally encounter such kind of issue. It's like an alert. If I share an alert to each and every person that is on this call, it's not all of you will receive the alert on the same time. Someone will receive the alert first before the other person, because we believe that everything is placed in form of X and Y. You know, we have our raster and our vector quantities in terms of the GIS. So if we share something with people, they will not, it's very impossible for them to receive that particular thing in the same time. So I can just, to my own perspective, I did not say I'm always right, but maybe someone can have a different perspective on it that he can tend to share with us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you, Hamidu Aruna, Abubakar Ali, Ahmad, Halima Yusuf, Kirshel, Khalida, Manasa, and Mohammed. So I don't know if any of us have anything to contribute. You have anything to say to the house? Yes, it's time for
Halima Bawa, kindly unmute yourself and talk. I guess you have something to say, but you are just hiding behind this.
Please unmute and speak. Halima, are you there?
I hope Halima did not join by proxy.
Khalida, are you there? Can you tell Halima that we are waiting for her?
Maybe she's experiencing a network issue. Okay, she's still on the call. Halima, kindly share your input with us. So is there anyone that have something to add or anything to say?
Yeah, Khalida, it seems you want to speak. You can go on and speak.
No, you were asking me about Halima. So I think
all right. I think network is not favoring her. So I don't know if do anyone have anything to contribute or add up before our keynote speaker summarizes and we call it a day. All right, sir, you can go ahead with the conclusion.
Thank you. Actually, my own is not a contribution. I want to actually thank our speaker for today. Actually, we have learned a lot of climate change today. We thank you so much, and we will be happy if we can have the material. It will go a long way. Thank you so much.
Okay,
All right,
Manasa,
and
I missed your point at some point. Can you please drop on the chat box? I think I missed what you are saying. I'm also having a network issue at my end.
Okay, he's
Okay, I
actually
see.
appreciating your effort. Okay, continue. Go ahead.
I say we really appreciate your time and the knowledge that you have impacted to us. Is very interesting. We really thank you. And I say if we can get the material, actually it will help us a lot and it will go a long way. Thank you for your time and resources. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Manasa. I actually don't have any material, so I just decided to share some of my knowledge and information and learning with my other colleagues.
Thank you so much.
But I'll probably work next time on seeing how I can share or come up with something to share with you. And I will also work on it to see how I can share with Simon. Probably he can maybe decide to share with you.
All right, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for your contribution.
Okay, so in a nutshell, I think I will also wanted to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity for me to be part of these wonderful conversations. I am really glad for that. I wanted to just maybe talk in a nutshell regarding climate change. Climate change is actually real, and I discuss around some of the indices and things that climate change can actually lead to. Climate change can lead to death, it can lead to people losing their resources, losing their jobs, it can lead to conflict, crisis, and many more. And each and every person has a responsibility of addressing and mitigating and reducing the impact of climate change. So for us to address climate change, we need to be applying the evidence-based approach whereby we will be informing people on the reality aspect. We need to consider the marginalized people across our community. And I believe with time, a small number of youth and social and vibrant advocates will be there to solve the contending climate issues problem. And every steps we take and every actions we take is going a long way. We should not underestimate our power and our actions and some of our work, our dedication or efforts that we apply towards addressing the impact of climate change. The time to act on addressing the climate change is now. Let's not wait for tomorrow or next tomorrow or the future. Let's try as much as we can to make the world a better place for the future generations. And I think the earth is what we have as common because people will be fighting a lot, about so many things. But up till now, I have never had any person saying that the earth belongs to him. That means this is what we all have as individual and for everybody. Let's try and make the environment more sustainable for our future generations. And when we can look at the aspect of climate change, we can be able to have a lot of opportunities while addressing the climate change. I wish us all the best towards our climate journey. Thank you so much once again.
All right, we thank you. It's like the meeting is over.
I guess Simon is having network issues. I think you guys need to open your camera for me to see you and for us to have a picture.
Yeah, I'm back. My network has been very poor.
Yeah, actually my place, there's no light. So even if I own my video,
I don't know. You can use your torchlight and flash it on your face.
My torchlight. Yeah.
This is the best time for us to know who joined the meeting by proxy.
Yes. All right.
Actually, I'm also having no light.
Yeah, this is me. So I can only see, I can see Mr. Simon. He did not come for my own today.
All right, I can see your face shining and enjoying.
All right. See you.
Simon, were you able to snap the picture?
Yes. Someone, Abdul, okay, I can say Abdul Fatai. Manasa, open Abdul Ahmed. Ahmed is running his camera.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Let's call it a day. I have a lot of work on my desk to attend to. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You have a wonderful night, please. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate our turnout, and I hope the session today will go a long way in helping us to contribute our culture in taking the right in our community. And with this, I hope that we'll also have a meeting for our community project. It will go a long way in helping us to graduate from the program. So I would love each and every one of us to unmute. Can we have a brief meeting now? Yeah.
But can you stop the recording so that I say you can stop the recording now so that we can do our meeting.
All right.
Okay.
Stop the recording.
How are we going to do
Right.
with our project, community project? I think, have you, Mr. Simon, have you wrote the letter to the Ministry of Bosepa?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello. Good evening.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are sure.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes,
Sure, you are audible. So I was told that we can just, since we are not coming in group or in anything, we can come together in our various communities, and we can also join those persons around as a team. Then we come out anywhere we want to take our pictorials, place we want to engage the community, so we can have our own engagement, have pictorial reports, and send it over to the team for documentation and recording of our own program for the community project.
Okay, where will
Ahmed, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm here. I think my network is having problem.
we can hear you? Okay, where will be the meeting point for us to meet before engaging the program?
No, we can't. How can sanitation is their movement? You can't have a meeting point now.
Yeah, but at least we can meet now. I think the movement is stopped by 7 o'clock. So before 7 we can decide to come together so that
Then, all right. If the team agrees,
we need to have
we meet.
we need to have the picture of the group. I think it's that of their requirements to show that yes, we have engaged in the community project. I think
All right.
therefore,
The thing is, I wanted us not to be stressed and to have it like a community-based project. You get, because we are actually from different communities, though within a particular area that's within the same local government within Maiduguri. Some are in Jere, Mesendari. It's actually a different local government. Yes, but we are within the same city as the MNC. So we can actually come together based on where your area is. You don't need to pay double TP. Maybe those in Gomari, they don't need to pay TP from Gomari to say maybe we'll be meeting at post office. So everybody coming to a particular point. We can have it within our area. Okay, this person is living in this area, this person is living in this area, this person is living in this area. If we have 3 to 4 persons that are living in Polo, they can meet and organize themselves in Polo. Another person is living in Madganari, Marsh, Borno Express. We can also come together, have something. Somebody is living at Bulari, West End, Custom. We can come together. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Somebody in that university area, 202, they can come together and have their own project. Are we good on that?
the problem now, as you can see, even in this meeting, we are not up to 10, 9.
Yes.
So forget about the member of the group. In the group of Borno State, we are about 15, and most of them they are not active. So for us to do this thing very effectively, and I think we need to come together if possible.
Yes. Now that's where I actually want to start. I actually want to hear from you guys so that I'm not the only one inside for doing this as a big
Okay,
challenge.
even
I actually
today,
wanted us to come at one point, but I wanted us seeing the need to do that. So is there any for us to actually come together? I'm throwing it to the house.
I think the movement it stops at 7 o'clock. I think around 6 or 6 again I think can move. But I don't know. I'm suggesting.
Okay. So let's drop it on the group and see how people will reply.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll quickly do that.
Okay. Not necessarily
Are you good on that?
before tomorrow, before at least by Friday, we will come on one thing so that we conclude on how we will do it.
All right then. I'm actually dropping message on the group. Please just try and reply.
Okay.
All right, can we end this call?
Yes.